Peace, y'all. Thanks for coming in the room. Thanks for checking this out. Thanks for giving me even 2 seconds of your energy. Just wait for some more people to come in the room. Whoever's meant to hear this message today, let them hear it. And I wanted to talk about nature. I'm talking about nature. I've been noticing there's big movements always around nature and people always talking about nature, but I just wanted to bring some clarity to the situation, or at least my perspective, because at the end of the day, that's all I can share is my perspective, I don't claim to have all the answers. I'm just trying to figure this out just like everybody else. Only difference is, not everybody is claiming that they're trying to figure it out. Some people think they know it all. But universe always humbles us. Nature always humbles us. Our experiences humble us and teach us that maybe we didn't know everything. Maybe we don't got all the answers. Maybe there is more to learn. Maybe there is more to grow and become. New skills, new knowledge, and more application of that knowledge. So every single day, I feel like we're getting humbled. If you choose to look at it that way, you can not choose to not look at it that way, and you may not grow as much, but I choose to look at it that way. Every single day I'm getting humbled and shown that there's more to learn, there's more to go in this journey that we on. So yeah, with that being said, I wanted to talk about nature. We tend to romanticize nature, and I want to talk about my experience because I feel like I did that a lot throughout my journey. We come from environments where we don't know what nature is. Like, we really don't know, and it's like a big deal. It really is a big accomplishment in my mind for us to be here in Hawaii, or just to be somewhere outside of the place that we came from, because it takes a lot of courage. It takes some sort of determination to actually put yourself in a situation that we're in now, which is to leave what you had going on previously and to actually dedicate yourself to another way of being, another lifestyle. It really takes courage. A lot of the times people can't find that within themselves to actually pursue what they want out of life. So just even being in the situation, being in the environment that we're in, out here in the middle of the ocean, in some floating rocks called Hawaii, but we took that leap of faith and we took that plunge and we immerse ourselves in what we believe in, because there's nothing other for us to do as we see it fit in our mind, but to really go out there and get it for ourselves. So I just wanted to say that is a big accomplishment. I recognize that, just jumping out and doing what actually you believe in. Not everybody could do that, or to the extent that we're doing it, not everybody could do it, So I just want to say that because that's important, And so even myself along the way, I found myself romanticizing certain concepts and certain ideas about nature, And so it's like every time I did that, I was really covering up the true essence of what nature is, and I was really choosing to not look at it for what it truly was, And me and Serenity, we made a video. She made a video. I just hopped in on that video, but we were talking about veganism. We said why she's no longer vegan, and we were telling people that, and that just opened up a can of worms in my mind, because it made me realize that we tend to romanticize things. We have this image of how things should be in our mind that has been given to us. It's not even something that I can say people just come up with or conjure, but it's something that has created through culture, has been established to become an image of what's right, So people have this image like the world's supposed to be this way, but then they're looking out into nature and they're trying to force nature to be what's in their mind. They're trying to force it to be an ideology that they hold to be true, but it never is a match. It's never a match, because nature is not to be put into a box, Nature is to be felt and accepted, It's to be honored, it's to be lived in tune with, but you can't apply the ideologies of people coming from a sick place to something so pure as nature. Nature's so pure and beautiful, and it's pristine despite what we deem to be negative in nature. And that's some of the things that I wanted to talk about, because a lot of the things that people romanticize about nature are things that they don't necessarily want to accept because they view it in a negative connotation or a negative light. Whereas indigenous people, whereas people who were truly connected to nature, they didn't really have this perspective. They accepted nature for what it was and understood the communion and the balance and the harmony of nature and all things that exist within nature, you know. So we live in a time where everybody must survive and everything must live and everything must not perish. And we look at this system that nature uses to keep balance in a given environment, we look at it as negative. So people get sick, people die, or even children coming into this world don't necessarily survive or make it. We apply an ideology that's negative. So we create an environment called civilization so that we can escape this perceived negative situation. But indigenous people didn't see it this way. And although they did grieve in the moment and they did find it sad that situations like that happen, they didn't focus on it and put nature in a negative place in their mind because of it. You know, these are normal human emotions. You know, we feel grief, we feel sadness for moments at a time. What's not natural is to be in that state of mind all the time, 24/7. So we put ourselves in that mindset because of the way we think, because our perception, because our ideologies have trained us to do so. But the perspective that people who were living in tune with nature for real had, because if say for instance, let me paint a picture, a situation. If a child came in to this world that was not healthy, meaning that it had some sort of disease and it was very visible from the time it was born, they wouldn't let that life continue. They would terminate that life right then and there because they knew that was going to be a burden on the tribe. They knew that wasn't going to manifest into the healthiest being that could be, and it was going to have a detriment on the tribe. And they didn't necessarily look at it as negative, you know. But this is why I say we're not ready for nature, because what nature truly is and what it holds and what it represents is a force beyond our ideologies, and we're not ready to come out of that box yet. We're not just yet ready to release all labels, to release all ideologies, release all thoughts about something as pure as nature. We're not ready for that yet, you know. So it's challenging talking about connecting back to nature to people who are so wrapped up in ideologies, you know. So when I look at nature, I see all these things and I used to turn a blind eye to them. Like I used to be like, well, maybe they just did that because of this, or maybe it's just that given situation, or maybe they're not telling us history the way it really is, or maybe they distorted it. And I just kept thinking that maybe everything was wrong. Maybe there was other information to be explored or found. But the more I looked into it, the more I realized that the problem wasn't what I was finding in the information that I was coming across. It was my perception of it. It was me trying to apply how I feel about the situation to reality. Reality was saying, look, nature don't care about your feelings. Look, nature is survival of the fittest. Nature will weed out the weak to create a stronger species, because through evolution and through this process, it creates a stronger genetic blueprint for that species by weeding out the weak components within the species. But if you focus on the little part where the lion eats the gazelle, you could perceive that as negative, because you're focused on this little spot. All you're thinking is like, oh my God, I can't believe that lion ate that gazelle, and look at that gazelle must have suffered so much, and it's such a bad thing that gazelle got eaten. If you focus on that, it's gonna seem negative, right? But if you were to zoom out and look at the bigger picture, you would realize that no, actually, that lion just strengthened that pack, that pack of gazelle. It just enhanced the genetic that is going to be passed on, because only the weak will get weeded out and the strong will survive, which will create a stronger genetics for the next generation, you know. But because we tend to zoom in on this little piece and we want to ignore everything else, we can't look at the bigger picture, you know. So I found myself doing this kind of thing to a lot of aspects about nature, you know. And then I realized, why don't I just accept nature for what it is? Like, why don't we just accept nature for what it is? Like, why is it so hard for us to just be like, that's the way it is in nature, and allow it and be in tune with that? But see, the whole thing about coming to civilization and creating civilization was to escape and get away from having to accept nature. It was because we didn't want to accept these things that we created civilization. We created a whole world, a whole reality where we didn't have to face the reality of nature. Not the harsh reality, because it's not harsh. It's just harsh if you apply your ideology to it. In the grand scheme of things, nature is doing its very best job. Nature is selecting the strongest. Nature is providing for all and living in harmony and creating harmony within every environment and ecosystem that is inhabiting it, you know? So when I started looking at that from that perspective, I was like, man, that's powerful, you know? That really is powerful, because we might perceive a species getting weeded out of a certain environment or getting reduced in numbers as wrong, but nature is really just bringing equilibrium. Nature is really just bringing balance. The only way it knows how to do it. And you could make it evil in your mind. You could apply some morals or some ideologies that you created or somebody else gave you to nature, but nature doesn't care. Nature is going to keep being nature despite what you think about it. It's still going to create viruses. It's still going to create bacteria. It's still going to find a way to bring balance and equilibrium to an environment or an ecosystem. And that's it, you know. And why is it so hard for us to do that? Why is it so hard for us to accept that, you know? So I'm coming into a point in my life where I'm just like, you know what? I still want to be in tune with nature. I still want to be in tune with the source. I still think we're powerful in nature. I still think that when we connect to nature, that is where we could be the most supreme. The only difference now is that I don't care what it means to be in tune with nature, because I'm willing to accept nature for what it is in order to be in tune with it. So that's my personal approach. I know it's not everybody. Some people want to stay in civilization. Some people want to create a hybrid place where civilization can coexist with nature. So, you know, there's many forms and ways of thinking. But for me personally, I just think that if I can connect to nature, I can find the truest part of myself. And if I can connect to the truest part of myself, then I'll really know what this is and who I am and what this whole existence is about, and I'll be able to live the true human experience. Until then, I'll be living something other than that, you know? So, you know, I came to that point where I'm willing to do whatever it takes, because I'm not worried about the ideologies that people created. There's so many ideologies. There's so many ways of thinking, you know? There's so many books that have been written, so many morals and ethics, and people live by so many different principles that it's innumerable. But there's only one nature. There's only one place that don't care about the way humans have been programming themselves to think, you know? And so that's what I want to be in tune with personally. Like I said, if you love civilization, cool, you know, crumble with it, you know, because just like any other civilization, in my opinion, it will eventually crumble, because we're doing the same things that we did in Egypt and Rome and Babylon. All these civilizations were eroding the topsoil, we're depleting the resources faster than we could regenerate them. We're doing all the same mistakes. So it's, if you're a smart person, you would be like, well, that was going to create the same result. So I should strive to maybe look for an alternate situation where I could survive in the long run. But that's just me. That's the way I think. You know, I'm thinking ahead a little bit, you know. What time is it? It's 3:19 right here where we're at. Yeah, it's still daylight. We're like 5 hours ahead, behind, I should say, of the East Coast. You know, and so that's what I've been getting into, you know, and that's what I've been realizing, that we just have to accept nature, because check it out. When you could accept nature for what it truly is, that means that you accept yourself for who you truly are. And that's what we all want, right? We all want self-love, self-acceptance, and we want to know ourselves. And the first thing of knowing, you got to accept it. First, before I can even know what nature is, I have to accept it for what it is. I have to be like, all right, that's nature, facts. Let me accept and acknowledge that that's what it is. And then let me come into the knowing of what that specifically means and how that plays out and how that feels, you know. And so that's my next step, and that's what I'm looking forward to, is connecting to nature and developing a connection with the environment, because people talk about nature all the time, but it's so nilly-willy, it's so in passing, it's not real. Because, like, look at this grass, and I always bring this example, but just look at this. This is an ecosystem right here, and it might just look like a bunch of green, a bunch of grass, but it's not. It's really multiple plants right here. It's actually, you know, several plants in here. And apart from that, if you were to dig this up, you would find a whole soil and ecosystem of bacteria and bugs that actually inhabit this little space right here. But if you're not really in tune with nature, you'll just walk on this and you won't even think twice. You won't even realize that there might be some edible plants here. There might be some herbs here that actually could help you and give you nutrition. There's a whole world here, you know. But most people will just, you know, look at that and not really see what's really there, you know. And so part of accepting nature is looking at it and accepting it and knowing it for what it really is, you know. He's doing good. Zen is with his mom. He was sleeping early. I think he woke up. Am I going to build? You mean build my own house from scratch? I actually do want to build my house. Actually, I want to get into building with material. I want to get, like, that's my goals, because I feel like everything you do should be your spiritual practice. Spiritual practice isn't about going to an ashram or going to a church or going to a building. It's not about, you know, yoga or meditation. To me, personally, spiritual practice is everything you do. So it doesn't matter if you're, you know, learning how to make a bow and arrow, or learning how to make a fire, or learning how to harvest some fruit or some berries from your environment. To me, that's a spiritual practice, because spiritual is everything. And when you live, you're supposed to live in spirituality. It's not something that you tap into for you know, an hour out of the week. It's something that you live in. You know, you see the world around you as spirit, and that's the whole concept behind animism. If you have some time, if you're not familiar with that term, look up animism. Animism is a way of looking at the world that most indigenous cultures looked at. They believed everything was energy, you know. And I know that term gets thrown around a lot in this new age of information. Everything is energy, right? But there was some relevance to that. You know, there still is some relevance to that everything holds energy and vibration. And the tree, just as much as the animals and the bugs and the bacteria, is an integral part of reality. And so every time you're moving in your reality, you're actually communicating and interacting with spirit, with spiritual things, you know. So that in itself becomes a spiritual practice. Walking through the forest or walking through the jungle and watching every footstep and being careful of not giving your location away, or, you know, doing what you got to do to remain undetected, that becomes a spiritual practice, you know. So everything that people who are truly in tune with nature did was spiritual in nature, because that's the way they looked at the world. They didn't go sit at an ashram, like I said, or go meditate or do something that we made up to feel spiritual. Life was spiritual to them, you know. The dream realm was spiritual, and everything was symbolic, you know. So that is a very sacred way for me of looking at things, and that's why I had to step away from the veganism labels and from all these labels that I had created for myself, because I wanted to experience life in a more holistic, practical, ancient manner, you know. And I felt like I was putting myself in these Babylon boxes, and I was becoming victim to psychological programming that I'm not so sure of has its foot in the right place anymore. Because I be looking at veganism, it's like, damn, Burger King got a vegan burger, McDonald's got a vegan burger, like wait a minute, like, this has been co-opted. This is some other shit. This ain't nature anymore. This is Babylon. Like this whole movement has been co-opted by the government. I feel like it's a psychological operation on the human species to try to see just what they're capable of, just what they're willing to survive off for a certain ideology that's people on YouTube feed them. You know, it's like we go and we base our whole life and beliefs on something that we saw online, you know. And I'm here teaching online as well and sharing my perspective, but I'm just opening you up to the possibilities that maybe until we get out there and actually experience nature for ourselves, that we won't truly know what's real and what's not. Because you got to live it. You got to feel it with your own nervous system. You got to feel it with your own being. What is true? What is facts? You can't expect nobody on a screen to tell it to you or to give you the true reality, because everybody's filtering facts and reality through their program, through their way they process things, and they might leave something out and they might add something that they believe in that might not be true and relevant to your experience. That's why I say get out there and figure out for yourself, because once you're out there, it ain't gonna be about vegan. It ain't gonna be about nothing like that, you know? It's not gonna be about being part of any labels. It's gonna be about being in tune and surviving in that ecosystem and environment, which is everything in nature. That's all they're worried about. They're not worried about the psychological torment that we put ourselves through. They just said, like, this is it. This is nature facts. Okay, let me see. I gotta find some food. Gotta procreate. I gotta do this. I gotta breathe. I gotta, figure out how to do things in this environment. Like, I accept it. Like, it's only humans that were like, nah. This can't be it. This can't be the real thing. Let's create a whole civilization. Fuck this shit. This shit is scary. I don't like this. Like, let's shut this down. Let's shut this down. Let's go somewhere else where we can escape this reality, you know? And so I feel like civilization is a drug. Civilization is a drug. It's like just like people smoking weed to get away from their problems. That's all civilization is. It's an escape, you know? To me, in my mind, is an escape to get away from the realities of what the natural world faced us with. So, you think this whole life is a simulation? Yeah, sometimes I feel like that too. Sometimes I feel like it's just too surreal sometimes, and it's just like, it's a lot to take in sometimes when you really go down the rabbit hole of existence and you start piecing stuff together. It's like, damn, like, I don't know. It's like it's a plan to this, a patterns, So I feel like patterns really hold the key, when you start observing the patterns and you find the patterns in nature, and it becomes like almost like you're peering into the software programming of existence, and things can get like a little creepy sometimes, because it's like you're looking at the work of the programmer. And you're like, okay, I see what he did there. Like, I see how he put those zeros and ones together and created that programming, So it is very reminiscent of what we created in the digital era, as far as all these computer simulations and programs. It's like nature could be looked at the same, but I feel like it's the original, it's the original system and software that we're meant to be in, So that's all I want to share today. That's the message for today, and that's the message for tomorrow and for the next day, and until I find some other inspiration, I'm gonna keep dwelling on that and just keep reiterating that and thinking about that more in depth, because I feel it's important. John Joe, you say, how's Hawaii? It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. We're really enjoying it. Let me show you. This is Hawaii. Got palm tree, the ocean, clouds, beautiful blue sky, and what else can you ask for? And out of a tropical environment, So that's how Hawaii is right now. It's treating us well, Yeah, it is beautiful. It's really pure in some ways, I feel like it's not as tainted as some of the places around the world. And I guess because it's kind of fairly, not new in the sense, but it is a new piece of land relative to other, like this North America, South America, because it kind of emerged recently in the timeline of the planet Earth, but because people haven't really corrupted it to the worst extent like other parts of the world yet. But I mean, it's getting there. People bringing their cigarettes and their bad habits. Eventually, it'll just become, you know, just like any other place in the world. But, you know, for now, and I'm about to get off because my phone's about to die and I didn't bring the charger with me. So, you know, I hope you guys have a beautiful day, have a beautiful night. Enjoy the time that you have and enjoy this reality, this existence, you know. And like I said, if you can look at nature and want to commune with it, first step is you got to accept it for what it is, you know. And so that's the word for today. All right. Stay balanced. Peace.